Hey, so we're opening this up, this podcast series, as a opportunity for you, as the coaches, the ads, and the athletes, to get to know me a little bit better, and just to be part of a conversation of the topics that we're going to talk about through the school year, and specifically today, what we're going to be talking about or have talked about in session 2. So here with John Wilson, my son-in-law. Again, my name is Todd Moeller. I'm the director of Character Plus, and we're going to start a conversation here.
Yeah, and I'm excited to be here. And Todd, you talked about a lot of great things with session 1. And so one thing, ever since I've known you, I've heard you talk about 3 things. And it's leading boldly, competing fiercely, and loving strongly. And
Yeah,
so that's
yeah,
something that came to you as being an athletic director at O'Fallon. Tell me about where that came from and what that means to you.
yeah. So in my years as the athletic director at O'Fallon Township High School, in my journey of leadership, um, every book or podcast or anything out of here, we talk about culture. You got to build the culture,
Yeah.
and how to build the culture is to have, to build it on principles and core concepts and core values.
Mhm.
So we, as a staff, we went about that business. We created some core values for about 3 or 4 years, and we had these words that were what we wanted to represent. And I would ask coaches, hey, what's our core values? And crickets. And I
Sure.
would ask
Sure.
athletes, hey, what's our core values? Crickets.
Crickets. Yeah.
So I was at a college visit with my youngest daughter, and on these big pillars, actual pillars, there were these words of action and emotion, and I was like, man, and it spoke to me, just
Mm.
just being there and seeing that, and I'm like, we got to do this different, because
Yeah.
it's not sticking, the
Yeah.
textbook stuff. So I just, like,
Right.
I abandoned the textbook stuff, and I was like, okay, how do I want to do this
Hmm.
as a leader here at OTHS? And so I created these pillars out of my own mind and my own heart of compete fiercely, what I thought athletics should be about, and knowing the heart of my coaches: competing fiercely, leading boldly, and loving strong. And I have my own interpretation of that, and it created, just those statements created such great dialogue between me and the coaches and the
Yeah.
athletes. um, so that's how those statements came about. and
Yeah.
then and then in having them, I had to know my own definition of
Right.
what it meant to compete
Right.
fiercely, lead boldly, and love strong, and just leading as an athletic director from that place. um, so competing fiercely for me is uh, to challenge yourself daily, really, as an athlete, to challenge yourself to become better, as a leader to become better, as a coach to become better, and that's just real simple terms.
Yeah.
Um, Leading boldly for me is to I kind of describe it this way: that as a leader or a person, moments meet your toes
Mm.
without notification. Boom, it's
Right.
there,
Right.
right? And leading boldly, so many times for me, is just have the courage to step across that line
Yeah.
into that space, not always knowing what it is that's across that line,
Right.
but having courage, leading boldly into that space, and then just getting in the business of of
Right.
of whatever it is. And then loving strong for me, this is one that I'm really passionate about, because I believe that the experience for high school athletes, no matter if they're the last person on the bench or the star athlete that everyone's counting on for whatever their role is,
Right.
that everybody's role matters.
Mm.
And whether it's an athlete to athlete, or coach to athlete, or an athletic director to every member of that team, every member of the coaching staff, that everybody knows that their role is valuable.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really passionate about that.
That's great. What I love about that is that's something that everybody can take to. It's not just the star athlete on the field who gets it. Anyone who's a leader, and by your definition, everybody's a leader, right?
Absolutely.
So anybody can take those 3 things, from athlete to coach. Anybody can apply those to their life.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, let's talk about session 2 a little bit. So you talked
Yeah.
a lot about, gratitude and failure and servant leadership. I'd like to start with failure,
Yeah.
because I think as athletes, as leaders in general, I think we all have some type of fear of failure or we've faced failure before. What has failure looked like in your life, and how have you dealt with failure?
Well, we were talking earlier, and you said, think back to some times when I failed, and there are
Yeah.
so many times where, I mean, if you're living life, you're failing.
Right.
So it doesn't take me long to think of examples of where
Mm.
I've failed.
Yeah, tell us one.
Um, One that has stuck with me for a long, long time is one from
Mm.
high school.
Mm.
And I was a basketball player and football player, but during the basketball season, it was a particularly rough week for me because earlier in the week, one of my friends had committed suicide.
Man.
And then we're in this conference championship game, right? It was actually, I went to Mascoutah High School, and we were in the same conference with O'Fallon High School, where I worked for 30 years. But in the championship game at O'Fallon, and we were down one, and I got inbounded the ball full court. They were pressing us, and I got fouled. Stupid
Mhm.
foul, by the
Yeah.
way. Stupid foul
Send you to
to
the
to
line.
foul me when they were up, right?
Yeah.
But I go to the line, and I remember just feeling, just getting tighter and tighter, and getting
Mm.
bound more and more by fear. And I remember looking over to my coach just looking, not being intentional. But now that I look back, I think all I wanted was some encouragement. That's all I wanted, just
Mhm.
something, and I got nothing. Well, I make the first free throw. Should feel good,
Right.
right?
Right. Tie game now,
Tie
right?
game now,
Yeah.
but I'm getting tighter and
Mm.
tighter and feeling heavier and heavier. And I look again at my coach, and I can remember being on my knees, just looking over for something, some encouragement, and didn't
Right.
get it. And I don't criticize him. He's a tough coach. He coached us to be a great team, but in that moment, I was personally just looking for encouragement,
Mm.
and I didn't get it.
Mm.
So I'm getting more and more tight. I missed the free throw.
Mm.
They outlet the ball to half court. There's 3 seconds left when I shot.
Oh my
They
goodness.
outlet it to half court. They chuck it from half court and they drain it.
Oh my goodness. That's
So
like the opposite of what you dream about as a kid.
it is the absolute
Man.
opposite. And
Wow.
and my office, by the way, was 30 feet from that free throw line. It was
Oh my
right there
goodness. This is a
for
constant
18 years.
reminder.
It was a constant reminder. But it
Wow.
but it challenged me to deal with that failure,
Mm.
too, at the same time, daily,
Right.
that I had to live with that failure, the memory of that failure, and that free throw line. But there was a lot, that in that failure, it crushed me in that moment. So I know
Yeah.
what crushing failure looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there are a lot of skills that I've learned as a leader now that I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known as my first year as a head football coach that I didn't.
Yeah.
And I started to learn some things in my passion towards just being a better leader, being a better
Mm.
person, being my better self. And I learned a lot. And those are some of the things and how we're going to deal with failure, how we can deal with failure,
Yeah.
that I want to talk to athletes, coaches, and ads about.
Yeah. I'd love to hear you talk more about that. I mean, I have faced failure in so many different ways. Like, yes, as an athlete, but both just being in leadership and different jobs that I've had where I have failed and that weight has been crushing
Yeah.
to where I should be better than this. I come down on myself. What are some things? I know you've talked about gratitude. Where does gratitude play in with all this?
Yeah. So gratitude has kind of has helped me create just like a framework,
Mm.
right, of my mind. It has the opportunity, I think, to change my mindset
Mm-hmm.
for the day. So when I think back to that moment at the free throw line,
Yeah.
someone yelling at me, "Hey, think gratitude,"
Right.
wouldn't have
Right.
helped in that moment, right?
Right.
That was a tight moment. But I think gratitude is a practice that we can create in our life,
Mm.
a lifestyle of gratitude, which for me looks like, some quiet time in the morning and thinking of those things that I'm grateful for, and which has caused my mind to ask different questions, to see different things, and creates a mental framework for the day that can be different. So when those moments that, like I talked about earlier, that arrive at my toes, or
Yeah.
I'm at a free throw line I'm crunched with fear, it has framed my day and perspective on those moments differently. That I can be maybe a little more aware. I'm not thinking in gratitude in that moment,
Right.
but I might be
Because you're
thinking,
not great. If you miss the set, you're not grateful. You
I'm
are
not
angry in that
grateful.
moment.
I'm not grateful
But
in
what's
that
the
moment.
change?
But the change can be, I think, that my mental structure in coming leading up to that moment can be a little more self-aware. That, oh, my mind is bending towards fear and locking me up, and that's not the normal place that my mind has been maybe in
Right.
the day, or where I started the day. So I'm a little more aware of that it's bending or tending that
Right.
way. And then I've learned some skills that have really helped me to, in that awareness, then to draw my mind back from the emotional to the more practical, and
Yeah.
where I'm in a little more self-control of those emotions, and that's kind of how I think where gratitude can build the framework to those moments where I can be more intentional.
Sure. What do you think would be just the first step if anyone's sitting here saying like fear of failure controls me. I'm always thinking about what if I missed this shot, not what if I could make the shot. Like for somebody who's always lived in fear, what would be the first step in practicing gratitude? Something that everybody could do.
Yeah. So for some, it's hard to think of what are you grateful for.
Right.
What are you grateful for? And I was listening to read and listened to an audiobook about how to maybe think about this, and just think in the past of best moments. What are some of your best moments from
Sure.
your past? So you're not thinking like something that doesn't exist. No, you're thinking of history, right? You're
Yeah.
thinking of something that's in your past
Yeah.
that is a best moment, and it could be something in that day already, in the past year, or what is something that lit you up. And everybody has those things.
Sure.
A
Sure.
conversation with someone, or a breakfast that you just ate, or for me, food,
Yeah.
is
Food related. Sure.
food related is
Yeah.
always a best moment. So thinking in gratitude could just be that. Hey, what kind of things have I really enjoyed in my past?
Sure.
And then thinking of those moments and being, man, that was awesome.
That's
That's
good.
gratitude.
Yeah, that
That's
sounds
gratitude.
simple.
Yeah.
I mean, so best moment could be anything from hitting the game winner to enjoying the best breakfast sausage you've ever had in your life.
That's
But just writing them
absolutely.
down and thinking back to these things.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
good. Well, hey, let's just talk real quick. The third thing you touched on, so we're talking servant leadership.
Yeah.
And you said servant leadership doesn't have to be something really huge where it's, hey, look at how big and what we're doing. It could be something small as simply sending a text message, encouraging a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I thought of a moment like this. That encouragement in our generation, it's so rare.
Yeah.
I'll tell a quick story. I was at the gym a couple weeks ago. Big dude. And I went to give him a compliment because he looked great. He looked like he was ready to compete in a bodybuilding show. So I walk out and I said, hey, man, you look great. You're a beast in the gym.
Yeah.
The dude stops his workout, looks at me, and he almost looked like he was about to cry. And I was just like,
Wow.
what's happening right now? I didn't know if he was going to punch me or what was about to happen. I didn't know. And he just looked at me and said, thank you so much. You are the first grown man to look at me and give me a compliment.
Yeah.
I have so many haters in my life. To have somebody look at me and give me a compliment is so rare. Thank you. And from that point on, like every time we see each other, fist bump. But it's just made me realize, like, putting someone else first, reaching out to give a compliment is so rare. So
Yeah.
what's your encouragement with servant leadership?
So that story just kind of really fits perfectly in a concept or a philosophy that I have, and that is that everybody needs encouragement.
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody
Everyone.
needs encouragement. There's not a soul on this earth that doesn't need encouragement.
Yeah.
So one of the things I believe about gratitude is that when you have gratitude, and you're thinking, you're grateful and in a heart of gratitude, then you're thinking outward more.
Right.
And you're not thinking inward of yourself more. You're thinking outward, and you're thinking of others. And so the simple thing like saying thank you,
Mm-hmm.
it could be an act of servant leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And here's something I know. When I was a coach, if I would have a young man, or come up to me and say, hey, thanks, coach. Oh my gosh. I mean, it lit me up.
Is that right?
That would be one of my best moments of that day.
Man.
If it's just a simple thank you.
Mm.
So servant leadership doesn't have to be anything heavy or hard.
Yeah.
It can be just simply being aware and being grateful in a moment, or noticing someone at the weight room
Right. Right.
and saying, man, I noticed you.
Right.
Man, now it can be something a little bit bigger or strategic.
Sure.
And that's what I challenge the programs to do, is to, like, okay, inside your community of your basketball or sport program, what could be done authentically to serve someone in your program. And I said
Sure.
basketball because I was actually thinking of the O'Fallon girls basketball program, that they had a mom who was battling cancer, so they did a fundraiser for her and a big night for her, and just lifted her
Wow.
up. And it was a beautiful, beautiful, authentic night.
Hmm.
So it's not anything that you have to create or make up. You just have to pay attention,
Sure.
because there's people
Sure.
in need that will receive encouragement.
Yeah.
And if you can organize and lead that, man, that's servant leadership.
That's really good. Well, Todd, thank you for everything today.
Yeah.
And we'll see you back after session 3. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. See
All
y'all
right.
then.